Good evening, Jackie. Welcome to another video. It is Monday, October 6th, 2025. Yes, I am saying the date. I don't know why. Anyway, this time, since you decided to do some readings of a story, I'm going to do the same thing. This time it's going to be the whole thing, not just in parts. Yes, I created the story originally for a while, but it does have meaning to it. Now, this is what I call Pinocchio. If love be wicked, then so am I. Alright, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a poor woodcarver named Geppetto, who longed for companionship in his old age. From a strange piece of pine that seemed alive with secret murmurs, he carved a puppet. The puppet blinked, sighed, and stretched its limbs as though it had always been waiting for this moment. Geppetto called him Pinocchio and said, "At last, I have a son." But Pinocchio, though lively and quick, felt a heaviness in his chest. For when Geppetto spoke of him as his son, he thought, "Yes, I am a son. Yet I am not what the world believes the son must be." And so, from the very first day, Pinocchio's heart knew a secret. Now everyone knows puppets' nose grew when he told lies. But the first lie he ever told was not about school, nor about money, nor about mischief. The first lie Pinocchio ever told was whispered in the dark, to himself. "I want to be a real boy." He said, "I want to be a real boy." The villagers heard those words and smiled, thinking he longed for flesh and bone. The truth, which swelled within him until his nose betrayed him, was stranger and braver. "What I want to be is a boy whom another boy may love. What I want to be is seen as worthy, though my love is forbidden." Each time he denied this, each time he said, "No, I only want to be like the others." His nose grew longer, and as though the wood itself cried out, "You lie, Pinocchio! You lie against your own hearts!" And so his adventures began, not only against rogues and tricksters, but against the greater foe, the world's refusal to accept him as he was. Pinocchio was sent to school, for Geppetto wished him to be studious and well-behaved. But in the classroom the boys laughed at his stiff walk and wooden hands. They called him half-boy and toy. Pinocchio lowered his head, ashamed. Only one among them did not laugh. This was Luciano. I'm sorry for mispronouncing it. If I'm butchering some names, I am genuinely sorry. Luciano, the apprentice of a rival carpenter, whose dark eyes were sharp as blades, and whose smile carried both cruelty and kindness. Luciano said, "If you wish to be like us, you must learn how to lie better." Pinocchio trembled, for lying was the very curse of his body. I cannot lie," he whispered. But Luciano leaned close and asked softly, "Then tell me, who do you dream of when you are alone?" At this, Pinocchio's nose betrayed him, lengthening in the mist of the classroom. The other boys roared with laughter, thinking him caught in foolishness. But Luciano did not laugh. He only watched, and in his eyes Pinocchio saw recognition, as though Luciano too knew what it was to hide a truth that burned. From that day on, the two were often together. Luciano teased him that he walked him home. He mocked Pinocchio's stiff hands, yet once pressed his own hand into them, and Pinocchio felt warmth through the wood. It was with Luciano that Pinocchio first learned the sorrow of the lie he carried. When others asked, "Do you long for a real body?" He would nod and say yes, but in his chest the truth ached. A longing for a body that made love another boy openly, without shame. And every time he hit this, his nose grew longer, until he began to hate the very face he wore. One evening, the two boys lingered by the riverbank. Lozano asked, "Why do you always say you wish to be real? You walk, you speak, you laugh, you even blush. Are you not already real?" And Pinocchio, with trembling voice, answered, "They think being real means to be like them. But to me, being real would be to love you, and not be called a monster for it." At this, his nose did not grow at all. Now Pinocchio's nose was a cruel mirror. When he lied to please the world, they grew longer, until he could scarcely pass through doorways without bending his head. The villagers mocked him and whispered, "See how false he is. He will never be like us." But when Pinocchio told the truth of his heart, however dangerous, the nose shrank back toward his face, as though the wood itself rejoiced. One night by candlelight, he whispered to Lozano, "I look at the other boys and feel nothing. I look at you and I feel everything." His nose, which had grown monstrously long from a week of falsehoods, shrank at once, smooth and handsome as any lad's. Lozano touched it with a trembling hand, and said nothing, for to say the same out loud would be perilous. Yet whispers had begun to stir in the village. They said Pinocchio was bewitched, wood, corrupting their children with strange affections. Some declared he should be burned for kindling. Others demanded he be brought before the magistrates to answer for his unnatural lies. Lozano, frightened yet fierce, stood at his side. "They call you false, but I know you are the truest soul I have ever met," he said. Pinocchio lowered his eyes. "And why do I feel as though each step I take brings me closer to a trouble I cannot escape?" And so the trials began. The fox and the cat, never sly, served as his accusers. They cried, "The puppet twists his truth. He deceives with his lies of love." The villagers murmured in agreement. But when the blue fairy appeared to question him, she asked softly, "Pinocchio, what is it you most desire?" The court, waiting for his lie, expected him to say, "To be a real boy with flesh and blood." But Pinocchio stood tall, though his voice quivered. "I desire only this, to be free to love Lozano without shame." At once his nose shrank, so small and neat that the whole village gasped. For the first time he looked no longer like a puppet at all, but like a boy with a face carved from honesty. The magistrates faltered, unsure what to do with such a miracle. Some called it blasphemy, others whispered it was divine. Pinocchio, for the first time, did not care. He felt Lozano's hand grip his own beneath the table, and knew that even if he were cast out, he had spoken his truth. The hall of judgment was thick with smoke from torches, and thicker still with suspicion. Pinocchio stood before the magistrates, his wooden joints stiff, his eyes alight with fear and defiance. Lozano lingered among the crowd, pressed forward by angry shoulders. When Pinocchio spoke his truth, "I desire only to love Lozano without shame," the chamber erupted. "Monster!" cried some. "Abomination!" shouted others. Yet a few whispered to themselves, "But see, his nose has shrunk. He speaks the truth." The fox rose, pounding his cane. He has bewitched woods! He corrupts our sons! The cat hissed, he must be cut down of the tree he is. But an old woman in the back of the hall murmured, do you not see? He is only a boy, more real than those who had their own lives. Her voice was small, yet it rippled through the crowd like a secret they dared not admit. The magistrate, red-faced, demanded, Pinocchio, do you repent of this unnatural desire? Pinocchio trembled. He could feel Luciano's eyes upon him, begging for safety. If he said yes, the crowd might spare him. If he said no, he would be doomed. He closed his eyes and whispered, I cannot repent for being what the blue fairy made me. If my love's unnatural, then truth itself is unnatural, for it lives in me. The crowd roared as though split in two. Some cursed his name, others hung their heads, ashamed of their own silence. Luciano forced his way forward, crying out, if loving him is wicked, then I am wicked too. For I have loved him from the moment he first looked at me with his honest eyes. Gasps filled the hall. The fox snarled, seize them both! But before the guards could act, Pinocchio's nose shrank so completely that it vanished. His face glowed with a strange, unearthly light, and for a moment all were silent. He looked no longer like a puppet, nor even like the boy they thought they knew, but like something truer, something untouchable. And still the silence broke. One voice cried, he bewitched the lads! Another hissed, burn them! The hall filled with the fever of fear, in the great purchase of Salem, where reason is drowned by fire. But amid the cries, Luciano slipped his hand into Pinocchio's and whispered, if they cast us out, we will make our own world. Pinocchio at last believed him. The gavel struck like thunder. Pinocchio, the puppet boy, the magistrate declared, you stand guilty of falsehood, corruption, and unnatural affections. For these crimes you shall be burned, as all false idols must. Luciano, son of a carpenter, you are guilty of sharing in his corruption. You shall burn beside him. A hush fell, heavier than the shouting before. Pinocchio did not cry out. His nose did not grow. He only stood very still, and in that stillness Luciano saw him, truly saw him. The wooden sheen of his skin, once mocked, blurred before his eyes. What he saw was a boy no different from himself, fragile, trembling, alive. You are real, Luciano whispered, though none else heard. If I believe it, then you are. But the crowd did not see a boy. They saw a puppet, a toy, an empty vessel filled with wickedness. They spoke of fire and smoke, of cleansing the town of its shame. Burn him, they cried, laughing at the irony of wooden flesh. Let the devil return to his forest. The guards dragged the boys away to the stone cell beneath the hall. The bars were cold and the straw damp. They sat together in the dark. Do you regret it? Luciano asked. Pinocchio shook his head. No. For one moment I told the truth, and you saw me. That is enough. Luciano took his hand. If I must die, let it be with you. For the first time, Pinocchio did not wish to be different, nor to be more like others. He wished only that their truth might have been accepted. He laid his head on Luciano's shoulder, and for that night they were not puppet and boy, but two hearts beating in the same rhythm. Outside, the townsfolk prepared the pyre. The pyre was built in the square, high and cruel, with logs stacked like the teeth of a beast. The people gathered, their voices a storm. Burn them! Burn the lies! Burn the sin! Pinocchio and Luciano were led forth in chains, yet they did not tremble, for their hands were bound together, and in that clasp was courage. The torch was lowered. Flames climbed like serpents, hissing, devouring the wood. Pinocchio's body caught first, and the crowd cheered. "See, he was wood all along!" they cried. Lucanius's cries joined the crackle, but not for fear of devotion. "If he burns, then I burn too." The smoke thickened, and through it the crowd glimpsed something strange. The shapes of the boys seemed to waver, as though the fire had unmade their bodies, but not their truth. And from the heart of the flames a figure emerged, tall, robed in embers, with eyes like coals that burned but did not consume. He was the man of the fire. The villagers fell silent. The jeers choked to ash. He spoke, and his voice was not thunder, but steady as a hearth flame. "Fools, you burned the boys because you would not see them. One was carved out of wood, the other of flesh. Yet both were real. You looked upon love and called it a lie. You feared truth, so you fed it to the fire." The flames curled around his hands like tame beasts. He bent to where Pinocchio and Lucanius's bodies had fallen, and from the ashes he lifted their joined hands, now radiant as gold. "The truth cannot be burned," said the man of the fire. "You may reduce wood to cinders, but love endures. You may silence boys, but the truth will speak through the generations." The villagers, trembling, covered their faces. Some wept, others fled. The man of the fire looked to the horizon. Pinocchio and Lucanius's forms, freed of flesh and wood alike, rose as twin sparks into the sky and carried upward on the smoke until they shone among the stars. The man of the fire whispered, for those who still listened, "To be real is not to be flesh. To be real is to be loved, and to love in return. That is what makes a boy, and what makes a soul." Then he vanished into the embers, and the square was silent for the wind. And so the tale ends, not with a puppet turned boy, but with the truth turned eternal. Pinocchio was always real. It was the world that was false. And there we go. That is it. Now, I hope you like and comment and subscribe. Hopefully, we're trying to gain some subscribers here. Now, I will see you on Wednesday, and you will see Jackie tomorrow. Now, I do have inside information. Jackie might be starting his own other channel. Well, he'll be working out, doing like gym videos. If you want to look at that, I'm guessing he'll talk about that in his video tomorrow. But you'll have to find that out soon. I'm not even sure. Now, I'll see you on Wednesday. Have a good one. And goodbye. See ya.